Max Verstappen will be the greatest F1 driver of all time. Here's why. Max Verstappen is recognized as an aggressive, often hot-headed driver who's always pushing the limits. But his driving style creates an entirely different impression. So what is it about Verstappen's driving style that makes him one of the world's fastest drivers? How does he get the most out of his Red Bull F1 car? And how does his driving style compare to those of other Formula 1 drivers like Senna and Lewis Hamilton? Stay tuned for the next couple of minutes to find out exactly what's so special about Max Verstappen. Let's start with Verstappen's racing line. You've probably heard that drivers like Verstappen, Hamilton and Vettel take a squarer racing line. But what exactly is a square racing line? What are the advantages? And how does Verstappen take advantage of them? The reason a racing line goes from the outside to the inside and back to the outside of the track is to open up the corner as much as possible. The shallower the arc through the corner, the more speed you can take through it. This is called the geometric racing line. It's essentially how the line would look if you use the compass to draw it. But this does not take into account the fact that the car typically needs to decelerate into and accelerate out of each bend. With this change of speed, the dynamics of the car is shifting, with weight being transferred around and the balance of grip changing. Therefore, the fastest way through a corner is not the geometric line. Rather, it's something we call the ideal racing line. A driver on the ideal racing line will turn into the corner later than the geometric line, reducing their apex speed, but allowing the car's platform to sit flatter on the exit, using more of the tire's grip for acceleration rather than cornering. A square line like Verstappen's will be even further away from the geometric racing line, with the car doing more turning in a shorter distance on the track, allowing for a faster entry and faster exit, but an even slower apex. This driving style compares to that of Schumacher and Hamilton, where they set up the car to have a very positive front end so it can turn better in the mid-corner. This style have both positives and negatives. The car's platform can remain flat for longer, which is easier to manage and usually results in fewer mistakes. But it means that when he arrives at the corner, it's tighter and there is more turning to do. This technique was most obvious in the rain-soaked 2016 Brazilian Grand Prix through the final last left-hander before the finish line. As we can see here, Verstappen was turning in late, getting the car's platform flatter earlier and straightening the exit on the corner, meaning the corner was shorter and the chance of unwanted oversteer as he crossed the slippery wet rubber was reduced. When done well, the style is tidier and creates fewer mistakes than those on the geometric racing line. A driver like Carlos Sainz uses a more geometric line, meaning he's essentially turning for longer and so multiplying the opportunity for an unforced error. Here, it's really easy to misjudge the entry speed and so have it cost you for a lot of lap time if you're slightly over or under the limit. Sainz is a driver who relies heavily on his field drawing that longer corner, while Verstappen is looking to get the platform of his car as flat as possible, driving in straighter lines. This still requires excellent feel, but for not quite as long through the corner. Spending less time through the corner also reduces tire wear and benefits the driver in changeable conditions, as we've seen many times with Verstappen. When I'm talking about the limit of a racing car, I refer to the point in which all four tires are giving their maximum amount of grip. You can of course push the limits beyond this point where the car is sliding across the surface on the track, but for most of the time, especially in modern F1, this is a slower way to drive. If you're still watching, please let me take 3 seconds to ask you to consider subscribing to the Real Racing 1 channel. Many people think that being fast in a car is about being brave, but brave means not being certain of what's about to happen. When you can predict what the car is about to do, when you're certain about how it will react, you don't need to be brave. It's far better to predict when a car will break away rather than havoc slide and need to react to it. When you're reacting, you're always behind the car. Predictability means clear decisions. This is also known as the most intelligent way to drive, and it's a style we've seen in the multiple championship winning drivers because it means extra mental capacity that can be used to think about racecraft strategy and setup rather than simply keeping the car on the road. This is one of the reasons Verstappen is so fast and changeable in wet conditions. He has the extra mental capacity to experiment on the circuit. We've seen this a number of times while he's racing. Being quick on the wet, where the complex mixture of rain and puddles, where the grip changes drastically every inch, is all about collecting information and developing from there. In Brazil 2016, it was challenging to keep an F1 car on the track, let alone exploring the track. However, Verstappen's safer and more conservative driving style meant that he was less likely to make a mistake and so could go and explore the circuit constantly, trying different lines and gathering information. Of course, Verstappen still needs to hold on to this information and decide how he will approach each corner. But that's why he's being put on the same level as drivers like Hamilton, Schumacher and Senna. Drivers who think deeply about their technique and had the ability to adjust their style, as we've seen with all the greats in F1. If you have enjoyed this video, please subscribe and comment down below which driver you want us to analyze next. Thank you.